These worlds are endless, and yet they are a prison. Help me find the originator. These worlds are endless, and yet they are a prison. Help me find the originator.
Howdy do, Exiles. We just got a bomb dropped on us for 3.26. Really crazy stuff. There is a lot going on, a lot to be introduced, and thankfully, some emerging spirits of enormity got buffed. Got buffed by a considerable amount, and that's what we're going to go over in this guide. I would first like to apologize. I've lost almost all of my footage for my previous SRS builds. So I was only really able to get the Feared, Maven, and 80% Deli Expedition kind of clip. There wasn't a whole lot, but you can check my other videos. This build has been proven league after league after league. This build was fully in-game viable before enormity, right? So now that we're enormity, I mean, the build just cooks. It absolutely cooks. It's uber viable, tens and tens of millions of DPS, very tanky, and it's just, honestly, it's one of the best all-around builds that's not going to absolutely destroy your bank. And this is what I'm presenting to you guys as a league starter for 3.26, because officially it is safe. We got the patch notes. We're good to go. All right, so I'm going to explain to you guys how the build functions, right? How it does what it does. Okay, we're gonna do paint for this. So this build uses Summon Raging Spirit of Enormity. It's a transfigure gem that you'll get from Lab or from the trade website, and you get a maximum of 6 Summon Raging Spirits, and they scale off life, and their hits always crit no matter what, right? So that's cut and dry. That's what SRS of Enormity is. It's a very high life pool basic SRS that always crits, right? And then we pick up this keystone. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, probably like around level 5 or 6. And it says minions explode when reduced to low life, dealing 33% of their life as fire damage to surrounding. If they have 100 life, they're going to deal 33 damage, right? That's the basis of popcorn SRS, right? Because they pop. How we get them to pop is Infernal Legion, which we also get in Act 1. This states that minions from supported skills take 40% of their max life as fire damage per second, and then they also deal X amount of fire damage, whatever the level 1 is, per second to enemies near them. Right? So they're taking damage, their life is going down, and eventually they'll die. And when they hit the low life threshold, which let's look and see what that is. PoE low life threshold is a condition that applies when life is at 50% or lower, right? So as soon as that health pool hits 50%, it explodes because we took the keystone. So you got this is you right here. Right, this is our little guy. This is your little wand. That's actually not a bad looking wand, right? And so you summon some raging spirits, right? And then you got some bad dudes over here. You know, maybe one has like horns or something and a really fricked up face, and then he's really upset. And so you're gonna summon these guys, and they're already gonna start burning as soon as they spawn. They start burning, but then they're going to travel. They're like, hey, I see this guy It's my job to kill them. They're going to travel, and then they're going to come over here, and these are our little summon raging spirits. And then as soon as they hit low life, they're going to explode, and they're going to do massive damage. 33% of their max life, to be precise, according to the Keystone. And when you have upwards of 300,000 HP, you're dealing a lot of damage, a ton of damage. And then this guy, rest in peace, feels bad, see you next time. That's pretty much the basis of this whole build. You sit there, you cast a group of them, they go to a mob. By the time they reach it, their low life threshold has been reached. They explode, and everything's deleted. Like, literally everything. This build does so much damage. It's absolutely ridiculous. So this is just a base explanation of how the build works. The build does not work if you just summon the Raging Spirit with the Keystone allocated, and then they just sit there. If their duration runs out, they don't explode. So you have to have, they have to take some form of damage. And they might take extra damage, not from Infernal Legion, but from a mob, like a ground effect or something, or like an AoE. And they can take damage that way and explode. But this way more or less guarantees that the low life threshold is going to be reached at a certain time. Right? And depending on how much fire res they have, it could take longer. It could be real snappy, right? If they don't have a lot of fire res and they're taking 40% of their life as fire damage, they're going to pop pretty quick, right? So I just wanted to give you guys an idea of how the build functions and why it works the way it works. With that said, we can get into the POV. So we're just going to hop in, and we're just going to kind of briefly go over some of the more important things, and we're going to break this up and do the tree, skills, items, and then we'll do the same thing. There's 2 POBs, one for league start, one for end game. You can swap between the two as you level. This build is extremely easy to follow. It's extremely easy to gear, very easy to get your sockets. It's mainly blue sockets. You can use hybrid armor and ES bases, so strength and bases, while you're leveling, and it works phenomenally. SRS enormity, it's kind of an underrated skill. A lot of people really don't know how good it is, and the best part is we just got a massive buff. So we're getting the 40% crit multi that was our quality is now baked into the base skill. And our new quality is now 10% more minion movement speed, which is so nice. Having as much minion movement speed as you can get in this build is only going to improve how good it feels. And it already feels pretty daggum good. So let's go over the tree. There's not a whole lot. It's just a level 90 tree. This is what your tree should look like, lab 1. And you can honestly go really, any direction you want. Me personally, I like to go here, there, and then I like to get minion instability early so that I can just, boom, we're off to the races. The build that we're going to be playing in the end game, we're already playing by level 5, right? And this is going to be your whole tree right here. And then you'll do your first lab, and your first point will be mindless aggression. And once you get this, you can go any direction you want. It really doesn't matter. SRS of enormity, or just base SRS minion instability leveling, is an absolute breeze. It's a joke. You're going to fly through it. I promise you. This is your lab 2 tree. You notice we start getting some health, some armor, regen. We got some block here. We start getting into our kind of minion nodes. We're picking up our reservation stuff. And it just, just kind of getting the odds and ends together. And yeah, so that's lab 2, second lab. If you're playing as a new player and you can get the trigger craft in the campaign, I would go ahead and get Mistress of Sacrifice. I think that's a pretty good pickup. and or Commander of Darkness. You a lot of times I'll leave this for the for my Uber lab. But you can kind of pick and choose how you want to do it. I wouldn't recommend. I don't know if I now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I would really recommend getting Commander of Darkness, because one thing that we have to have in order for this build to work is Infernal Legion. And that causes your SRS to take 40% of their max life as fire damage. Right? And so the more fire res they have, the slower it's going to take them to pop, because they're going to take less damage because they have more res. Right? And Commander of Darkness essentially makes it to where we're giving fire res, 30% fire res to our minions, and we don't necessarily want to do that during the campaign. So I actually do think the best option is I would say go ahead and go Mistress of Sacrifice for your second lab, and I would just call it good there. And that way you can run one of the offerings. You can run the damage offering if you wanted to, because we're not like highly invested in block at the moment. We don't have really, a trigger craft. So that's what I tend to do when I level. And then we have lab number 3. At this point, we're level 78. We're starting to get into our mapping. And by this point, there is a very, very, very important note. If you don't have this necklace, Tavukai, it's generally very cheap. Just buy the cheapest one. This causes your minions to take 20% of their max life as chaos damage. Right? And we don't have a lot of chaos res to our minions in this build. So with that said, if you are able to get an early Tavukai, then go ahead and pick up Commander of Darkness on your third lab. If you haven't gotten Tavukai yet, go ahead and pick up Bone Barrier. That is my recommendation to you, because if you take Commander of Darkness, your pops are going to be incredibly slow, and the build is not going to really feel that good. So I really can't stress it enough. I would really wait to get Commander of Darkness until you get your Tavukai. Once you got it, you're good to go. Then you're pretty much off to the races. And then we have our level 90 tree, and we're sitting real pretty. We got our Eldritch Battery, because we don't use mana to cast. We use Energy Shield. And I tend to pick this up when I have, 100 to 200, somewhere around there, Energy Shield. And then you can pretty well reliably keep up whatever minions that you need to keep up, pretty much without cause, without issue. And that is my recommendation to you. If it doesn't feel good enough for you at the time, just unallocate Eldritch Battery, go back to using mana, and then when you get a bit more ES, go ahead and swap back and see how it feels. You kind of got to play it out. Everyone's playthrough is a bit different, but my experience, I'm almost always Eldritch Battery as I move into maps. So that's my recommendation to you. You can pick up the masteries as you see fit. I like picking this one up early as we're leveling in Act 1, just to get a little bit of extra damage. Early on, every little bit of extra damage really does help. And I don't think damage is going to be really an issue, because we're going to have the mercenaries. But even without the mercenaries, this build stands on its own 2 legs. So that's not really anything that we have to worry about too much. And like I said, just follow the trees and you guys will be set up for success. It's extremely easy to follow. And, as always, if you guys have questions, don't hesitate to throw it down in the comment and ask away. I've league started this 6 or 7 times. I mean, I know this thing like the back of my hand almost. I haven't played it in 1 league. I took a league break. And so whatever I need to answer for you guys, just let me know. The level 90 league starter does use a cluster jewel. It's very simple. It's extremely cheap. This thing is so cheap. And then we just have like a whatever skill gem or jewel, just max life. It's it's really nothing. Like all of our gems, or excuse me, all of our jewels are very basic. And so there's certainly some room to improve on this build. Okay, let us hop into these skills. And now for a lot of this, we're gonna be going back and forth because there are some things that need to be explained. So as always, you know, the boots don't have to have these 4 gems. You know, whatever's in the gloves can be in the boots, and whatever's in the boots can be in the gloves, right? So first things first, we have a basic, like uber basic +1 minion skill gem wand. These are literally a dime a dozen. They'll be raining from the sky. This is going to be an extremely popular league. There's going to be a lot of players. You can find these in the vendors during the acts, you know, which is something that I really would recommend that you look for every time you go to turn in a quest. Just check the vendor while you're checking for gear, or when you're looking to buy a new skill gem or support gem. Just check the vendor and see if you find a decent minion wand. Because there's been many times where I found a +1 and it was like an alteration orb. Like it was nothing. You can essentially use that wand that you found in the campaign all the way to the end game if you really wanted to. Though I don't recommend it because this is just showing what the build can do on minimal stats and minimal mods. Essentially how this works is trigger socketed spell when you use a skill with an 8-second cooldown. Right, so when we cast SRS, it's going to trigger Desecrates, right? And then in 8 seconds, when you cast another one, it's going to trigger Bone Offering. So essentially, this whole setup is 100% automated, right? And because we have Mistress of Sacrifice, we also have 40% increased skill effect duration. This affects not only the length of time that our SRS are out, but this also affects the duration of the buff of Bone Offering. So when you get this craft, right, because it's, as well, Mistress of Sacrifice, also, our offering skills also affect us. And because we're using Bone Offering, we're getting a lot of block for ourselves. A lot of block. So currently as it stands, we are 68, 78 spell block. This is huge. Now, that's only with Bone Offering up. Without Bone Offering, we're 43, 56. However, because of the skill duration buff that we're getting from the Ascendancy Point, this buff lasts longer than it takes to re-trigger the buff again. Therefore, once you get your trigger craft and you get a wand with a green and a blue socket that are linked, we are always 100% of the time at max block. No questions asked, no ifs, ands, or buts, unless you get silenced, but that's like exceedingly rare. You're always going to be at max block. You will feel tanky, you will be tanky, and you will absolutely love it. Then we have Tempest Shield, which gives us a lot of our spell block, and also grants us immunity to shock, which is chef's kiss. We love that. Then we have our Curse, which is flammability. We have Shield Charge and Flame Dash for movements. We have Raise Spectre, which if you come to the drop down here, you can go right here, go to Raise Spectre, Manage Spectre, and we have a Tukohama's Vanguard and a Pale Seraphim. I recommend running these two just as a base. These will do you well up until the end game. And then when you get to the end game POB, you can do the same thing here. Go to Manage Specters and see what Specters we're running in the end game. And then we have linked to the Raid Spectre. We have Meat Shield, Minion Life, and Summon Stone Golem. So these two supports are benefiting both of these minions. Now in the end game, we're going to be using the Animate Guardian because it did get buffed this league. But I wouldn't recommend that for the league starter until you kind of build up some currency and you can get all the items for the Animate Guardian. So for now, just while you're leveling, while you're getting through your maps, just run Stone Golem. It's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about buying any gear. Just trust me on this. And this gives us regen, of course. Now we have our SRS of Enormity, Summon Raging Spirit, level 20, no quality on anything. And there is there's two camps that I live in, right? I live in a bossing camp and I live in a mapping camp, right? So for bossing, I like to run in my League Start setup. I like to run Tabukai with Infernal Legion. So I'm getting the 40%. They're taking the 40% fire as well as the 20% chaos. And so the pops are real snappy, real quick, right? And then we run crit damage because they're always critting, right? Because if you read this, it says minion hits are always critical strikes. And the minion instability is a hit. It is a hit from the minion. Therefore, any pop that happens will be a guaranteed crit. Okay, so that's why we run crit damage, fire pin, minion life. We run unleash, and what that does is it every 0.71 seconds you build up seals. You get 3 of them. You're able to put out immediately a group of 4 SRS, and that's how I like to run it. I'm not too worried about getting having 6 out at all time. Like as soon as 6 pop, get another 6 out. I just do it with Unleash and then do groups of 4. And I find that to be the most comfortable way to play. But that's just me. And this way we don't have to worry too much about cast speed and min-maxing that versus, how long our minions are lasting. And it's just an easier way to play. And then obviously we run Infernal Legion. Now for mapping, I personally think, because we're looking to, we're trying to get through it quick, I like to drop Infernal Legion and I like to run with Ignite Proliferation. You might think that it's not very good. I promise you, once you start using Ignite Prolif when you're getting into red maps, you will notice a ginormous increase in your total clear speed. You will just be shield charging, casting, shield charging, casting, and then everything is just going to be wiped out in your path. Do not discount the magnitude of the ignite of these pops that you're getting from your SRS. They're quite potent, and I would highly recommend, and I also recommend it in the in-game when you get into T16s and T17s, absolutely run Ignite Prolifs. Once you get into 80% deli, like the high percent deli stuff, then you want to bring that back and you want to just focus on your hit, because the Ignite Prolif doesn't scale very well into the extremely tanky and damage reduction content that is Delirium. So I would just keep that in mind. But this is how I've always run my SRS, and I enjoy it. It really works for me, and it's worked for everyone else that's used this build. Next, we have just a support setup right here, and this is very important, right? Feeding Frenzy provides just a raw damage buff to my minions and myself, and it's very important. And that's part of the reason why we run Raise Zombie. I think this one says we can have 6 zombies all together, and it's, they're running around and hitting stuff, and that means we're always going to have this buff, and it's so important. And then we have Elemental Army, and what this does is this lowers the fire res matching the highest damage taken by the enemy, right? So that's going to lower their fire res by 10%. And then we have Combustion, which lowers it another 10%. However, one important note: in order for Combustion to work, you have to be dealing some kind of fire damage. And as a base, Ray Zombies are pure physical. So in order to remedy that, we come down here and we make sure that one of our jewels has minions deal X to X additional fire damage. So now they have the ability to ignite because they're actually dealing fire damage, and they have a 25% chance to ignite. And it's pretty much always up on bosses, almost always. With 6 of them attacking, it'll have almost 100% uptime. And so this is kind of just a pure utility setup. And then we have some more of our buffs. We have Determination, we have Vitality, summon Skitterbots, and you actually, just a point of note here, you can actually link Infernal Legion to Skitterbots And because Skitterbots can't take damage, they don't die. So you just get like a free, a free fire AoE that just wipes everything. This is very strong early on in the game, and I highly recommend you guys, when you guys get to Act 2 and you get some of the Skitterbots, I highly recommend you go get yourself another Infernal Legion gem in Act 1 and just slap it on your summon Skitterbots. You're gonna absolutely love it. It helps a ton. And that is my recommendation to you. If you don't do it, that's also fine. It's not a deal breaker, but it does provide a bit of an extra boost. Now, as far as our items go, they're like very basic. This whole build is scaled with minion life and minion damage. The more life we have, the more damaging pops we have. And the more damage we have, the more damage they do. Everything here, extremely basic. +1 minion helm, some life and damage, and max life for us. +1 minion wand, max life, some res here and there. I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than this. This is basic as we can get. One thing I would recommend, if you do plan on running an AG, I still would recommend running bone rings, but I would be very careful to not run bone rings during the campaign before you get Tavukai, right? Because you're going to be giving him fire damage, which is going to make him pop longer. You're going to have to wait longer for the pop. So I would really wait to use the bone rings until you get Tavukai, and then it really won't be much of an issue at that point. And this way, you're gonna be able to get some extra Ellie res to your AG, and it won't be dying as much. Very basic Stygian Vise. The rings and the belt are mostly going to be there to pick up attributes and whatever resistances that you are lacking. We went over some of the jewels here. They're highly basic. This is certainly not the damage potential that this League Starter has to offer. Well, we're sitting at 4.1 mil. We can go considerably higher with better gear, and you will see that when we get to the end game tree. Here is our kind of calculation setup. The enemy's always ignited because the SRS always crit, right? We're always using a minion skill because we have the trigger wand, right? And that particular checkbox will come in later. Minions have frenzy charge because early on in the game, while you're leveling, very important to note, one of the first specters, and you're going to pick up 2 of them, is the Carnage Chieftain and the right side of Act 2. You're going to pick up 2 of these guys, and these guys are going to give your boys frenzy charges, as well as your zombies also. And so it doesn't have an incredibly high uptime, but until you get to Act 6, you won't be able to get Tukahama's Vanguard till then. So I just like to run Carnage Chieftains just to get the gem leveled up and get a Spectre on the field. And that's what I recommend you guys do as well. And then, we're on, this is Guardian Pinnacle DPS. 4 mil is more than enough that you need to clear your Waystones, do your fights that you need for your Voidstones, and start progressing your maps. General is 5.7 mil. This whole league start, it's just really set up quite well. And that's really it for the league start portion of this guide. It's extremely cut and dry. The gearing should be very simple as long as you're using hybrid strength end bases, and just find yourself a decent minion wand, whether it has +1 or a bunch of damage. Either one will work, and just kind of follow the guide as best you can. There's not really much that needs to be said other than what I've already said. Make very, very, very clear note. Don't pick this up before you get Tavukai, right? Pick it up after. Don't run bone rings until you get Tavukai, right? So little things like that, and I'll try to do a timestamp on that particular note so you guys can find it easier. So let's get into the end game. This is our end game setup, and you can start kind of piecemealing and kind of going back and forth, as you make the swap to end game. And it's not really necessarily a swap. It's more of a meld into transition. You're not really hard swapping to anything per se. But we do have several different trees. We have a level 95 trees that has no tattoos, but does have a red nightmare jewel, which is giving us chance to block attack damage at 50% of its value for any fire or all res node in its radius. Right, so we put it right here, and we have all res there. We have more all res, +1 to all maximum Ellie. And what this jewel allows us to do is to fully cap 75-75 our block. And you're going to notice a bit of a passive tree difference here, right? So like this half of the wheel is going to go away, and we're going to keep this half, right? You're going to, you're not going to get to take these two. You're only going to take this side of your cluster, right? So there's a few little minor differences in the passive tree, but it's nothing. A little bit of a gold will not help you to respec. And then we have our level 97 tree, which is essentially picking up these 2 minion life nodes and some cold res, dex, and mana. I did the cold res and dex because that's kind of what I needed at the time. If you find yourself needing some dex, try to find it in a cluster jewel and a cluster jewel base that I have here, which is the 6 passive medium minions have 12% increased life. I needed cold res. You might need lightning or fire. You might need some chaos. So you can supplement some of the stats that you may or may not need with your cluster jewel. And I would definitely keep that in mind because it will help you out. And then right here we have our level 100 tree, chock full of tattoos. Any extra intelligence you get, you can view it as a minor DPS increase because the tattoo is going to essentially take away a int node to give you 5% increased minion life. So that does equate to, just a solid DPS increase. I mean, it's not a ton, but it is 50,000. And, you have enough of these and suddenly you're at 500,000 more DPS. And you're not really doing anything else with these. You just have a bunch of excess intelligence. So why not use tattoos and just up your damage even more? And then we have, if you need more energy shield recharge or just more flat ES, you can take this wheel in lieu of taking these right here. So we have this node, and this node. And this node essentially increases in reduction to minion attack speed also affect us, which makes our shield charge a lot smoother to use. But if you feel like you have enough ES and enough ES recharge, I would run with this. If you don't, you can just as well drop these 2 points and then pick up some better recharge and just some straight flat ES. I've done both setups because my gear is different every single league, and both work fine. Both work more than fine. Obviously, with the new bases, all these stats are going to be improved. Your total life is going to be improved. Your armor is going to be improved, right? That's kind of where I'm at on that. And then we have this setup, which still has our energy shield recharge. We don't have spiritual command, but we're also able to pick up enduring composure so that when our block fails and we're hit, we start generating endurance charges. I personally like this tree the most. It offers the tattoos. We lose a little bit of funness on our shield charge. But we get a lot more mitigation through the use of enduring composure. It puts us at 90% physical damage reduction. I believe with the new bases, we're going to be there already. But with the buff to endurance charges in this current league, I feel like it kind of behooves you to be running endurance charges. You're already pretty tanky. This is just going to make you more tanky. And if you look at the full DPS, we're not exactly lacking in damage, right? So my advice to you is to get enduring composure. I think it's the best way to go personally. And then you have the same ascendancy setup as before. Bone barrier, it's going to give you leech, which is amazing. And our skills are more or less exactly the same. Desecrate, just leave it at level 1. Doesn't really matter. Bone offering. We have skittering bots in here instead of on the league start. We had Tempest Shield. So this is the setup for the wand. We also still have a trigger craft as well. Then we have flammability, shield charge, and molten shell, which is something that you'll click when you if you feel like you're about to take a lot of damage or you accidentally shield charge it into a pack and you want to make sure you stay alive. Pop that molten shell. You'll be safe. Then we have Ray Spectre, Minion Life, Meat Shield, and Animate Guardian. We're now fully in the Animate Guardian setup, and we're going to go over that here shortly. Now I have two setups here for our bossing and our mapping. We'll start with the bossing, right? We have Awakened Unleash. This allows us to group, to at least cast a group of 5 SRS of enormity. And so that's why we have the count enabled as 5. Then we run Empower, Minion Life, Crit Damage, Awakened Ellie Focus. Because we're bossing, I don't really care about clear speed. I don't care about Ignite. It's minimal damage. So I'm all about as much hit as we can get, and that's kind of what Elemental Focus gives us. Awakened Unleash, and then we leave off Infernal Legion. Another kind of setup you can do for bossing, if it's feeling a little bit too slow of pops for you with the Tevukai, you can just as well do Infernal Legion and then dip on Unleash. That can do you just fine. And you can just sit there and self-cast to your heart's content, one after another, and they'll just pop in succession. I prefer Awakened Unleash. I pop a group, I zoom around and avoid stuff, and then I pop another group, and then I zoom around. I'm not pigeonholed into staying in one spot casting, right? And that's the beauty of Unleash, right? You can just pop a group, your damage is there, move around, it does its thing, and you pop another group, and you're good to go. Right, it really affords you the ability to make use of playing a minion, where they do all the stuff, and you just get to move around and try not to die, right, essentially. Now, for our mapping setup, it's slightly different. I don't like to use Awaken Unleash. I like to use Infernal Legion. So we run Infernal Legion along with Tevukai for as fast as pops as possible. It's almost the exact same setup as our bossing, except we're using Ignite Proliv instead of Awakened Ellie Focus. This really, I can't stress this enough. This will improve your clear speed considerably. I can't express this enough. If you want to clear maps faster with SRS of enormity, you got to use Ignite Proliv. Trust me on this. If you don't trust me, try it for a couple of maps. You'll be converted, 100%. And so just follow this setup. You'll be good to go. Then in our gloves, we have Tempest Shield and Flame Dash and Vitality and Determination. And then in our boots, we have the same setup that we had before. We had, our whole utility setup. Feeding Frenzy, Ellie Armor, Combustion, Raise Zombie. We can have 7 zombies. It's all very simple. Make sure everything's quality. Get yourself a level 21 SRS of enormity. They should be pretty cheap to buy, and then you can just val them and get them to 21. A 2020 should not be very expensive. The beauty, kind of the part of the beauty of this build is not really many people play it, and that's because a lot of people don't like the play style. But the way I have it set up and the way I've tested it and the way I've kind of designed it, it feels really, really smooth. It feels incredibly smooth. And so now let's get into our items. There are 3 non-negotiables in this build. And I'm not a huge fan of non-negotiables, but this is kind of the way it worked out with this build to get it kind of to be uber viable like I really wanted it to be. And one of those things is Skin of the Lords. And what this does is it increases the socketed gems by 2. Gives you 100% increased global defenses. But you can only craft socketed, or you can only socket corrupted gems, right? So when you do get to the end game, all these supports have to be valed. You have to val them. And because you're not going to be able to, they have to be corrupted. And then you're also going to get a keystone with this, right? And I have a notes list of which keystones you need to use, you could use, and ones that you do not under any circumstances want to use. They will break the build. Make sure to consult this list when you're looking on trade, right? This particular one has Precise Technique, which is this keystone right here. Your hits can't be evaded, never deal critical strikes. We're not even attacking anything. So, great. This affects us in 0 ways. This one's good to go. You can buy it. And part of what this chest is going to do, it's also going to increase the level of your Empower, and it's going to offer you the ability to scale your SRS even more in terms of levels, right? And that's very important, right? As you can see, we have a base level 21, and then we have plus 12 to minion to your minion level. That's nuts. We have a level 30 plus SRS of enormity. It's bonkers. You're gonna do so much damage. We're currently sitting on Guardian and Pinnacle, and we're doing 47 million in groups of 5. It's insane. It's so much. It's so much damage. I can't even. It's so much damage. It's kind of stupid, actually, that nobody plays this build because nobody likes it. I don't understand. Right? When you're mapping, you're doing Ignite Pro Live. Every every single SRS is going to be doing almost 10 million damage per SRS that you cast. That's crazy. The Ignite damage alone is 1 million. That's kind of ridiculous. That's actually kind of ridiculous. For a single SRS, that's quite a bit. Our second non-negotiable, Tavukai. Tavukai, try to min-max it as best you can. Give it the quality to increase your 20% of their max life as per second as chaos damage to 24. It does give your minions -15 to chaos res, which is going to hurt your AG a little bit, but it'll also make your pops faster on your SRS because they have less chaos res. And it really is quite nice. And our anoint for our necklace is Fearsome Force, which we have right here. It's just essentially giving us a flat 20% crit multi. You can't really go wrong with that. We're pretty much taking every other minion node on this tree besides this one. So this one makes the most sense to anoint. And then the third non-negotiable, obviously the Red Nightmare, so that we can fully cap our block. As I said before, we're always at max block 100% of the time. No questions asked, guaranteed. As long as you have the trigger craft, you're good to go. You'll never, ever not be at 75% block, period. And that is, I can't tell you how good that makes me feel about this build. This build feels so comfortable. You saw in the beginning of the video, the 80% Delhi expedition. I was barely taking any damage. It's amazing. However, there's also a caveat to that. Part of the reason why we are so tanky is because of this shield right here. Specifically, the recover 4% of life on block. Right, so the more life you have, the more you recover. The more block you have, the more life you recover. It kind of all goes hand in hand here, right? You will be tanky without this mod, but when you get this mod, you'll feel invincible. Truly, it is so comfy to play with this mod. I can't even explain it. It's so good. Obviously, you get this mod from a shaper base, and they're very simple to craft. I'll be doing, I can try to do a crafting video for you guys on this when I get established in 3.26. I usually do it with very simple fossil crafting, but with the new orbs, the new shaper orb, there might be a more efficient way to craft this. So it's gonna have to give me some time to figure that out and try and get you guys something cooked up. Other than that, you can always just do some base fossil crafting with a life fossil, and you'll eventually get this. I literally just rolled this with a single fossil craft over and over and over until I got the mod with other mods that I thought were good. This one happened to roll with these mods, and I was like, shit, I'll take it. This is great. I love this. And then our Convoking Wand. I'll see if I can link the video in the description, but Surgog actually has a crafting guide on wands, and if I remember correctly, that crafting has not really changed over the leagues, and it's been pretty steady. And I believe that crafting guide for wands still holds true in 3.26. At least according from what I remember reading from the patch notes. And that's essentially how I made this. I just followed his wand crafting guide. And this wand is beautiful. Buy yourself a fractured base, and then you're off to the races. I mean, this thing is gorgeous. This thing, if you were to buy it, this is at least 40 div minimum, very minimum, and that's only because it's a 71%. If you go any higher, into the 90s, you're looking at 100 div minimum for a wand like this. I think I crafted it for like 25 div. So, I mean, we're already in the money, and this will give you some really good experience with crafting. And it's a very easy wand to cook up. And it's a staple of every single minion build that to ever exist. And then we have our helmet. Very simple. Int, armor, life, res, +2 level to all minion skill gems. Our implicits, 6% of fizz taken as lightning. Minions have 19% increased minion life. That's a damage mod, right? Because we scale off our minion life. Then we have Titan, gauntlets, all of our bases that we can afford. They need to be armor so that we can reach our 90% physical reduction. So we have 5% chance to suppress spell damage. I went with this because there's not really another implicit that's really going to do a whole lot for us. And then we have increased minion damage. We have max life, strength, armor, res, +1 level to socketed AoE gems. According to the patch notes, are no longer in the game. So you can do flat regen is always a good thing. You can do more intelligence for more tattoos. There's several things that you can do in this particular situation. I believe that there is also a prefix. If you wanted to fill up your suffix, you could do, I'm pretty sure it's like, I think it's a Crusader base where you can get a prefix that just flat increases your minion damage by 20%. So just on your gloves, you could have 35%. Right, so there's a lot of ways to skin the cat in this game. And then we have our boots. These are particularly nice. You could go the route of getting freeze immune from your Pantheon, or you could do it like I did it and just buy a pair of boots that have the avoid chill and an open suffix. You can just craft the frozen immunity. I didn't see anything about that not being in the game anymore with the Betrayal rework. So as far as I'm concerned, it still is in the game. But at least for boots, you know, I needed chaos. We got flat life, res, and most importantly, movement speed. And then our implicits, 7% regen and 32% increased effect of buff granted by your stone golem. That can be whatever you need at the time. It's not going to be in the in-game version. It's not going to be that implicit anymore because we're running the AG again, right? And since they buffed it, we dropped the stone golem. That's out of here. And so I'll let you choose what you think is best for that. It should be a very easy choice. You should know it immediately. Once you get to this point in the build, you're going to understand it. You'll know exactly what you need. And then we just have some, you know, a lot of my bases are fractured, so I can at least guarantee one mod. And we have a lot of strength and open suffixes for extra decks and just minion life and all res and max life and just real simple stuff. If you can, I really would recommend at least getting a single mod of minion movement speed. It will help a ton. I promise you, you will not regret it. And by the way, all these rares, save for the wand and the shield, I mean, I just essence crafted all this. Like almost exclusively, except for the boots. I did buy the boots, but the rings, yeah, these are all essence crafted, right? 47 intelligence essence. I can't remember what I did on this one, but I'm pretty sure I just used like a whatever essence, and then this is what it gave me. I think I did like a mid-level strength essence or something. And then we have a Stygian Vise. This is important because we love our Ghastly Eye Jewels. And this allows you to put a Ghastly Eye Jewel into a belt. Gives you another damage vector. You know, just regen, res, life, armor. I mean, real basic stats. You know, you just got to get the right stats. And then we have a Ghastly Eye Jewel. Remember, one of the jewels has to have fire damage to your minions so that your zombies can proc combustion. Very important. Please do not forget that note. And then we have a very important mod that we always try to couple with our minion max life. And that's minions deal 50% increased damage if you've used a minion skill recently. And what did we go over before? We're always triggering because we're always casting SRS. And because we're always casting SRS, we're always triggering, which means that this mod gives us 15%. This mod right here gives us 15% damage. And then this one gives us another 19 on top of it because they stack. It's great. And then we get another 19%. And then another 19%. They're just all over the place. You stack so much damage with these Ghastly Eye Jewels. With that particular mod, I mean, you could easily stack up to 100% increased damage on your minions. And, you know, it's no wonder that we're doing, you know, almost 10 mil, upwards of 15 mil for a single SRS. It's nuts. And that's the gear. And as far as the Animate Guardian is concerned, this is going to take you a minute. The Kingmaker is probably still going to be very expensive, regardless of whether or not the AG can still die. I still think it's going to be fairly expensive. But if you can pick it up, I really would recommend it because it does give a sizable boost. Your minions get just a straight up 50% increased damage buff. As a player, my character gets fortification and my minions get fortification, which is wonderful. And they get 50% to crit multi, which is nuts. And your SRS get Calling Strike. It's crazy. The Kingmaker is incredible for this build. And then we have Learcast, gives us our 50%. Sadist Guard, this is the Doppelgangers guys. We have Southbound for some res and some life. And then we have Inextricable Fate. So anything around the Animate Guardian is, if they're stationary, they're going to get Grasping Vines. When they hit 3 Grasping Vines, which is only going to take 1.5 seconds, then any damage that hits them is going to poison them. And then your AG is going to take 40% reduced extra damage from crits by poisoned enemies. So everything that you touch, that your minions touch, that's poisoned, or excuse me, everything that your minions touch that's stationary is going to be poisoned, because not that they're going to survive much. It's mostly this is here for the rares and the uniques that you run into, the bosses, right? Because a lot of times your bosses are going to be stationary, and what that means is they're always going to be poisoned because they're always going to be getting hit, which means that the AG is going to be a lot more survivable from crits. So I love these pair of boots, but you could just as well go with a really nice rare pair of boots and a really nice rare pair of gloves. And you could honestly probably dip on the Learcast and get a really nice helmet as well, and then just run these two as your uniques. I'll leave that up to you. Both work. Both are fine. Your AG is going to die, but the beauty is that you're not going to lose the gear anymore. And how wonderful is that? So this is kind of the rundown of the SRS build. It's very simple. It's really not super complicated, even for a newer player. Unfortunately, I was not able to make a single POB like hyper in depth. I didn't have enough time. I can't stress this enough. If you guys have questions, please feel free to comment below and I will answer whatever I can for you. I'm here to make sure that you guys have a wonderful league start, and not even a wonderful, but a successful league start. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd like to apologize. I'm so sorry for making this go super, super long. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe. Share the video if you like, and kind of promote it for me. That would be amazing. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and be good to yourselves, and God bless.